And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Tuesday, December 14th. I am Josh Engelman. I am joined by Adam Scher. We are brought to you by No House Advantage. And we got an easy one today. 3-game slate. It was supposed to be 4. We lost the Bulls. So that's not all that fun, but still plenty to talk about today. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Adam, how awful was yesterday?
Yesterday was pretty brutal, just across the board. Like, chalk plays sucked, contrarian plays sucked. I mean, obviously not all of them. PJ Tucker was fantastic. But yeah, just not a great night for me, that's for sure.
Not a great night for me either. Kristaps Porzingis had 54.6 FanDuel points in 25 minutes, 2.16 fantasy points per minute. And you look at that and you're like, damn, Porzingis smashed. Wasn't even the best rate on the slate. Nikola Jokic, 2.36 FanDuel points per minute, 72 in 30 and a half minutes before getting the early gate. Jokic is insane, man.
It is absurd how good that guy is. I laughed because I hadn't turned the game on yet, and I saw one of the Wizards beat writers tweet that on the first possession they had doubled Jokic with Gafford and Avdia, and that Wes Unseld Jr. had said that the plan was to throw different looks at him. And it was just like, I get it. Like, that's kind of all you can do. But, like, there's no way that is actually going to be effective because he's such a good passer. And this is what every team tries to do to him, and they can't. So it was like, you can't do anything to stop the guy.
Nikola Jokic is 7 feet tall. He's got a 67% true shooting this year. That's a 95th percentile outcome. He's shooting 75% at the rim, which is something. He's an 82nd percentile offensive rebounder. He gets 35% of defensive rebounds. That's as high as it gets. He's got the 5th highest assist rate in the league. He's recreating the position. He literally does every single thing for this offense. Is he the MVP?
I think so. One thing I kind of just crossed my mind, and obviously it's, who knows? Do you think teams start to just try and like get under his skin more going forward? That seems to be the one way that you can kind of slow him down. Like, got him ejected against Miami, got him ejected last night because they were rough with him. He didn't get a foul call. He went after 2 refs at once, and they just both hit him with a tee at the same time.
He was right though yesterday. That's the problem. He took that shot right to the face. Yeah.
His face was just like it looked like he had been in a fight. He got kneed in the nuts at the same time, and so like he was right. But I mean, that seems to be like the only weak spot is that they like teams have been able to kind of at times get him ejected or whatever.
By the way, I also missed that he's 72nd percentile in steals and 67th in blocks. So he's a better than average steal and block creator, not necessarily something that you immediately think of for Jokic. He does literally everything out there. He's a joy to watch.
Yeah, it's great. Somebody said Durant front runner for MVP. I mean, I think that's the conversation.
Curry,
I guess. I think he falls back.
I mean, I would put Curry and Jokic ahead of Durant at this moment. That's just me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like I guess Curry's the third one in there, but I feel like
Yeah,
I think it should be between Jokic and Durant. But I also view it mostly as best player as opposed to anything else.
yeah. I have a hard time if you're going to have 7-foot guys having offensive seasons like this. I'm going to have a hard time going to the guy that is an undersized point guard. Like they're just going to have different defensive things that Curry can't close the gap on.
Yeah.
And I think that Jokic and Durant, well, Jokic in particular, is having a better offensive season anyway.
Yeah. Anthony Marcus said Durant's team's having has a better record. And he's also putting up great numbers. I get that that's something people care about when they vote, but the insane numbers Jokic is putting up while surrounded by absolutely nobody is to me more impressive than what Kevin Durant's doing with James Harden.
Yeah. Look,
or I guess I shouldn't put it that way. I don't care that the Nuggets have a worse record with their current roster than the Nets do.
It's not Jokic's fault. That's for sure. I mean, he's literally doing everything. The fact that he has a 37% assist rate is truly crazy, given he's got a higher usage rate than Kevin Durant. He's more efficient with that usage than Kevin Durant, and he involves his teammates better than Kevin Durant. I know people don't want to hear it, but he's literally doing everything better than Durant. Everything. Every stat is better.
Drummond put up decent numbers last night. Yes, that tends to happen when Embiid gets scratched.
Yeah. I would have loved to play Andre Drummond, particularly if that news came out at 7:58. I probably would have hot swapped every Embiid just to Drummond because I wouldn't have had any other options.
Right.
Yeah. Sign me up for all of the Nikola Jokic. That's for sure.
I'll let you answer what the clutch numbers are.
I don't know. I would never look that up in my life. I don't have that filter. I certainly don't. Yeah, he's just to be so efficient with everyone knowing you're the only real legitimate option is nuts. The assist rate is the piece that gets me, though. He's a point guard in a center's body.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever seen anything like this.
No, and that's why I laughed at they're doubling in with Avdia. Like,
yeah,
like we've seen it in the past, even from a DFS standpoint, you'll kind of look and be like, oh, this team has no answer for this center. And then they end up having a decent, but not great game. And the answer is that they front him, they throw two bodies at him constantly. And he ends up, just kind of being mediocre. But with Jokic, it's just like, okay, well, he's just going to get 15 assists then.
Yeah. I'm just so sad. Like, the Porter injury sucks, but to get robbed of this much time with no Murray, the way that those two guys play together is a real bummer. Congrats on beating Hunter in chat too, by the way.
Yeah, I'm glad to see that. Pretty mediocre best ball year for me overall, though.
It's a shame.
Like, I mean, I advanced slightly above average, but not as well as I would hope.
Pretty decent last 2 months of DFS, though.
Been okay.
Samuel says Markieff Morris is going to sue Jokic. Yeah, I'm just waiting for Marcus Morris to try to exact some revenge here. But what are you going to do? I can't believe Markieff Morris is still out. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like, obviously Jokic lit him up, but I didn't really realize he hit him that hard. He certainly did. All righty. Let's hit the schedule for the rest of the day since we only have 3 games to talk about. NFL Strategy Show, First Look Edition, coming up at 11 a.m. So right after this show, we've got the NHL Strategy Show at 2, the No House Advantage NBA Show at 3, the College Football Bowl Pick'em Show at 4. Then Adam will be back for the deeper dive at 5:30, live before lock starting at 6:30. Plus, NBA ownership rankings and NHL top stacks are free. Well, here we go. First game up. And what's really crazy is it's sort of super easy to talk about. Toronto Raptors, 8.5-point dogs in Brooklyn, 216 total. For Toronto, everybody's just still out. They're playing on a back-to-back. I haven't seen anything that said that anybody that was out yesterday is going to be playing today. So no Anunoby, Achua, Birch, Banton, or Dragic. Did you know that no one on the Raptors is taller than 6'9"?
Nobody? Like, not even end of the bench guys?
Nobody. Per Basketball Reference, if you sort their height table, 6'9" is the top of that.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, I wonder who was playing the center in this And it's just like, oh, fuck, everybody's the same. So for Brooklyn, James Harden is back. No Kyrie, no Joe Harris, no Paul Millsap, who is now a part of the health and safety protocols. I am dropping our ownership projections into my sheet now. But we're going to start with the Toronto team that is super duper easy to do, at least to start. Van Vliet, Barnes, Trent, Siakam, Boucher, all from 23 to 29% owned on DraftKings. Basically the same scenario on FanDuel. Do you have anything interesting you want to say about the 5 starters for Toronto?
Not really. For the 4 that have been in the starting lineup all year, Van Vliet, Siakam, Barnes, Trent, it's kind of just the same thing that we've always talked about. They're going to play huge minutes, assuming that the game's competitive. They are solid per minute fantasy producers. There's not, one of them that is excellent, but they're all, or at least, Barnes, Siakam, Van Vliet are all, in that like 0.9 to 1.1 range, give or take. Trent a little bit lower, but still solid. And they're just going to play a ton of minutes. Boucher, assuming he starts again, he played 22 minutes yesterday, but that was a game where Toronto was just absolutely destroying Sacramento. The only starter who played at all in the fourth quarter was Scotty Barnes, and that's because he plays with the second unit. Nobody else, Siakam, Boucher, Van Vliet, Trent, none of them stepped on the floor in the fourth. So I still think it's reasonable to expect that Boucher plays 26, 27 minutes. If this game's competitive, he's, another fantasy point per minute guy. Price tag is slowly elevating, so gradually becoming, I don't want to say a worse play, but like relatively worse than he was. Still a good play, just not as good as, the price. As the price tag gets higher, he becomes riskier. It makes it more difficult. For example, yesterday, he still was able to 6x at his price tag in 22 minutes. As the price goes up, obviously it becomes less likely that happens. So still looks good, just not quite as good as he did yesterday. And
in a weird way, looks better. Like maybe not better, but like because it's a 3-game slate. Yeah. You also don't have to care as much. Like a 22-point performance. Honestly, 22 minutes out of just about anybody yesterday worked from a fantasy perspective, since no one succeeded. But you do get that ability to, like, Boucher looks a lot better on a 3-game slate than a 9 in this scenario, because even if he doesn't get those minutes, he could still be very, very important.
Right. Like 29% ownership going to Boucher today is probably a more appealing spot to be at than 35% yesterday.
Agreed.
Even though he was objectively better yesterday because he was cheaper.
Agreed. All righty. Now this is the sort of bigger question for Toronto. We have no Banton for today. He got injured yesterday. I assume he's out today at least.
Did he get injured or are they just resting him? It doesn't matter. But
no, he got hurt during the game and left the game.
Oh, okay.
So I assume he's out, but
he's out. He's definitely
out. Okay. Josh, do you take back your Boucher criticism? No, literally nothing changed from that conversation to now. Nothing at all. They don't want to be playing him. They're missing 5 guys. Yuta Watanabe, Svi Mikhailiuk, the Champagne guy, Malik Flynn, Malachi Flynn, but not Malik. That's not the way you read that word. What do we do with the bench of Toronto? Normally, this is a very easy discussion, and we just don't care at all. Today, I think, is a little bit different.
I still mostly don't care. So,
yeah, it's only different in that they will get some ownership instead of they won't get some ownership.
Yeah, but I think they mostly still suck. Like,
agreed.
I still don't think you're getting a ton of minutes for any of these guys. Svi Mikhailiuk, probably the most appealing. I would expect him to play around 18 to 20 minutes. Watanabe probably plays 18 to 20 minutes as well. He's a little bit more expensive on DraftKings. Neither one's a great, per minute guy. Flynn has not really been in the rotation typically. He's just been behind Banton. So I assume he takes Banton's minutes and ends up giving you something like 16 at 3K. That could work. It's nothing great. I mean, I still don't really see a whole lot here outside of, it's a 3-game slate. So maybe you end up with them in lineups here and there, but there's nothing that, like, I don't think Banton being out really opens the way for anyone to look great.
If they go to a 9-man rotation, I think that one of Watanabe or Svi maybe Svi in particular, becomes mildly interesting as a value play. 3,200, you get guard forward eligibility on DraftKings. And if it breaks correctly, maybe he falls into 22, 24 minutes. If they concentrate this rotation instead of trying to fill Banton's spot, that's the only like path that I see where something gets more appealing on Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, so they played 9 guys yesterday. I guess so. Like what you're saying is with Banton out, what if they have? I don't even. But so you're saying just don't replace Banton, and it just becomes Watanabe, Svi, and Champagny.
Yeah. What if they go to just 8?
Who's running backup point? Scotty.
Based on their positions on DraftKings, yeah, I think. Even though he was the center at one point in time too yesterday.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying like this is why I think Flynn just replaces Banton.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, we're talking about 9 minutes.
Like, I mean, maybe, but like Banton played 8 minutes.
I think you're
in the
right.
first half.
I think you're right. I don't have a disagreement, but Toronto's one of those teams that might just not fill a spot and might just play these guys more minutes.
Yeah, maybe Van Vliet plays 44 minutes too. Like that's possible.
Right.
But my assumption is that Flynn plays.
Yeah. I gave him 10 minutes. Like I gave Van Vliet 38. I gave Flynn the backup 10. So
there's also always the chance that Bonga gets into the rotation too.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say 2. I should say also. Like I don't think they're going 10, but
No.
Bonga could be the 9th as well.
It could. It's gross at the bottom here. Do you, I assume the answer is no. Do you care about any rules for Toronto?
Not that would really matter. Like, I don't think I'm going to get.
Yeah, I don't need to hear about Max 1, Watanabe, Svi,
right.
Champagne.
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't care.
Okay. Yeah. Just, I didn't think that you had any for the top 5 guys, but yeah. I know you don't want a lot of the bench.
Especially on a slate this size. If it were a bigger slate, I would say like Max 1 of the bench guys and Boucher, because you could always see Svi slide into the closing lineup or Watanabe slide into the closing lineup in place of Boucher. But with it being a 3-game slate, I don't really care.
All righty. Yeah. So Toronto seems really, really easy to talk about. So we're going to go on to Brooklyn now. And this is another one that's just a total shit show. Harden and Durant on FanDuel are like 35% owned a piece. Harden to me looks like the very clearly the better play, but we could talk about that. On DraftKings, they're basically 25% owned a piece. I think Harden looks slightly better, but it's a little bit closer. Do you have anything interesting you want to add about Harden and Durant on a day like today?
No, when they're both healthy, it's just difficult to get to them. I mean, the raw points become valuable on a 3-game slate. The opportunity cost is lower just because you don't have Giannis, you don't have Jokic, but it's also, more difficult to get there. And it's not just more difficult to get there in the sense that there's less good value. It's also more difficult to build a contrarian lineup while getting there because there's only so many paths to doing it. Like, for example, we have Mikhailuk and Watanabe both projected for 5% ownership. I would bet that a large percentage of the Watanabe and Svi lineups are paying up for one of the studs here. So, it's kind of like you're going to this dart throw type play, but then everybody else is doing the same thing too. So I expect, and clearly haven't built lineups at 10, 18 in the morning, but I expect that I just don't really get to Harden or Durant too much here.
Okay. I'm getting to more Harden on FanDuel. He's 10-4 there. Durant is 11-1, and they have basically the same ownership. To me, that's very clearly, I want to have Harden before I get Durant if they're the same there. And then we get to the rest of this team. So LaMarcus Aldridge, for some strange reason on FanDuel, is still 21% owned. The minutes have not looked as good as of late. On DraftKings, though, here are the ownerships for everybody that I have projected in the starting lineup for the Nets. 7, 7, 3, 4, 3, 7, 1. If you want to say that Javon Carter can get any ownership, go for it. Dude plays like 3 minutes a game. What in the world do we do with this Brooklyn bench?
It's pretty ugly. Like, Patty Mills' salary went up because of the game Harden was out, so that makes him pretty unappealing. Cam Thomas's price tag went up. His minutes should come down with Harden back. Bruce Brown, we know, is barely in the rotation when everybody's healthy. Aldridge's minutes have been down, and I do buy into that because it seems like Blake Griffin is suddenly back in the rotation, at least to a small extent. Played in the first half, didn't play in the second half last game. But when you combine that with Claxton being available as well, it makes it, just difficult. Wrong game. I was like, I know Claxton played.
Played 23 minutes.
Yeah, Claxton played 23. Griffin played 9. Aldridge played 25. So Griffin was playing the 4. Oh, they're actually playing Griffin alongside Aldridge. Okay. So scratch that part. But Claxton being back has cut into Aldridge as well. I still think that there's a chance. Like there's still going to be games, I think, where Aldridge gets to 28 to 30 minutes, which makes him kind of appealing at low ownership. But I don't think it's set in stone like it was when Claxton was out and Blake wasn't playing.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all if they start to go to more and more of Claxton as well, which is what I sort of expected from the beginning of the season.
Right.
We'll see where that ends up. But yeah, that is just a truly murky setup on the opposite side of Brooklyn, which is not ideal on a 3-game slate because you can't cross anybody off, but you're just going to see like random lineups with a Bruce Brown and a James Johnson and a Cam Thomas just popping up. And it's really hard to want to prioritize anything here, in my opinion. 21% Aldridge on FanDuel, 5,900. He does have the power forward eligibility, but that just doesn't feel right given the way that he's been trending.
Yeah, it's definitely a risky option. And when there's ownership coming in there, the reward for the risk just isn't that good. On DraftKings, it's a little bit different since he's 7% owned. Like 6,400, he's going to fail a ton of the time. But if he happens to play 30 minutes, then on a 3-game slate, he could potentially be useful. But still just difficult to get to.
Rules for a Brooklyn team. This is where it probably gets a little wonky.
Max 1.
Yeah.
I mean, but like seriously, I don't want more than one of like the Bruce Brown, James Johnson guys. I don't want more than one of Aldridge, Claxton. But realistically, I don't think I really need to set them because everybody on this team looks like shit from a DFS standpoint.
Yeah, if Aldridge's price was a little bit more reasonable on DraftKings, there's a case you can make to be okay with having Aldridge and Claxton since Claxton's only 3,100.
It would
but
be
at
the
6,400, Aldridge
price.
needs those minutes, and they're not playing alongside each other.
Right, the Gobert Whiteside thing from the other day, where it was like Gobert in 32 minutes projects well, and Whiteside in 16 minutes projects well.
Yeah, that ain't it today.
Yeah, and that's one thing I had said it to Dave Dremer in chat the other day. Setting rules is, it's nice and it's definitely like it catches potential mistakes, but a lot of times it's not really a big deal anyway, because if two guys project well enough to get into a lineup together, then chances are they're just both underpriced. And so on a bigger slate, it's not ideal. If I'm going to play, using the Gobert Whiteside example, if I'm going to play Whiteside and I'm going to play Gobert, I would still just rather them be in different lineups. But on like a 3-game slate, if Aldridge at his median projection is getting into a bunch of lineups and Claxton at his median projection is getting into a bunch of lineups, it kind of just means that they're both good plays. That's not saying that's the case in this specific spot, but if guys are both projecting into lineups a lot, they're probably fine.
And in those situations, I feel like a lot of people are going to try to not get them together.
Right.
And you're probably picking up a little bit of edge in that regard. I think rules are best in the situations of max whatever you want to say for Cam Thomas, James Johnson, Bruce Brown, DeAndre Bembry, where it's like, don't give me all of Brooklyn's garbage in the same lineup. Yeah. All righty. Anything else here for Brooklyn or going back to Toronto?
No.
All right.
Somebody from Brooklyn's going to end up being a good play, and they just all look so bad.
Yes, that I agree with. And it's one of those where you're you're shooting your way into it probably, or like you stole four steals or something.
I do want to go back. So I had said I didn't really like Harden or Durant. They're projected. Harden's projected for 26% on DraftKings. Durant's projected for 22. That suggests to me that once I build lineups, they might just be getting in there based on raw points. That's entirely possible. But they don't look like guys that I'm going to be trying to sacrifice a lot to get to. If they show up in my lineups, obviously I'm happy to play them.
All righty. Sponsor of this show, No House Advantage. It's a very different way to play DFS. This is 100% peer-to-peer. And we're talking about player props. They offer over 500 props. All you're doing is taking over-unders and ranking them on a confidence interval. All new users will get a $25 deposit bonus when you use the promo code Awesemo. You can mass enter these contests. We've got big prize pools. We have No House Advantage projections and optimal lineups on Awesemo.com to help you take down the prizes. You can download the app in the App Store or play on NoHouseAdvantage.com. I've got it pulled up right now for today's 2K Slam Dunk. I'm going to hit Adam with one or two player props here for today's game. We'll start with, let's see, who would be a really fun one? I mean, this one's honestly pretty interesting. Over under 15.5 points, rebounds, and assists for Blake Griffin.
15.5?
Yeah.
Under?
Now, you don't get a win if he doesn't show up on the floor.
Still under.
Which is interesting, but like that feels like a really good under to take a shot on, hoping that he plays.
Right. Like the only way you lose is if he suddenly plays 20 minutes and actually plays relatively well, which if he plays 20 minutes, he probably is. But
right.
Yeah, like with the rotations they've been running lately, you're just hoping he gets out there, plays the first half, and then disappears.
Yep. All right. We're on the same page there then. Let's see. I'll hit you with another one here. Who looks good? Brooklyn, Toronto. See, like Toronto's are hard because it's either the 5 starters or you don't really want anybody. The Boucher props, I'll give you Boucher. Over under, you can take your pick here. 10.5 points or 5.5 rebounds.
I would take the over on either.
Okay. Yeah, I've got him at 12 points, 8 rebounds. You could also take 15.5 points plus rebounds if you want. I think I would just take the over on the rebounds prop here. I gave away 2 rebounding prop bets on the breakfast menu with Ben earlier this morning, given how bad Brooklyn is as a rebounding team. So go watch that video, but also go play at No House Advantage and use that promo code Awesemo. Alrighty. So we're going to move it on. Golden State Warriors, New York Knicks. Adam, we're so lucky because today, finally, everybody can just shut up about this 3-point record for Curry, that we don't have to act like that changes things from a DFS perspective. He's going to break this record by 1,000 threes by the time he ends his career. I don't know why we care about this at all. Curry is 10-2 on FanDuel, 11-5 on DraftKings. We know the drill for Golden State. It's a 4-man band: Curry, Wiggins, Poole, Green. This feels very, very similar to rostering the guys from Toronto, just less minutes. The only other interesting piece here is that Kevon Looney is only 3,200 and has been playing slightly more minutes as of late.
Yeah, he played like 25 minutes 2 games ago. Yesterday against Indiana, he got 27 minutes. He got 27 minutes without playing in the second quarter. He was in the closing lineup. He didn't play in the second quarter. So that's weird. But you potentially, get low to mid 20s from him again here at 3,200. Makes him look like a reasonable value. The thing that really stands out to me right now, at least from Golden State, why is Steph Curry getting half the ownership on DraftKings of Kevin Durant and James Harden?
I don't know.
Like, to me, they're all the same. They're all a little overpriced for their median projection. They all are, the 3 collectively are likely to be the highest scoring players on the slate. If I'm going to get to them, I want to go to the lowest ones. And right now that's Curry.
I don't really have anything else that I could really add to that. I'm with you. I mean, the Knicks being 27th in pace, more of a defensive team, might be like what sort of just brings him down naturally as a like anti-optimizer play. But I'm with you in terms of like, if I have to just pick those names out of a hat, to me, they're all the same. I don't care which one I get. So I want the one with the lowest ownership. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, like even if, and I haven't done my projections yet, but we have Alex, for example, has Harden at 48.6, Durant at 48, Steph at 47.6. So they're all within 1 point. That is functionally the same. And if you're going to tell me that that 1 point is going to be 26% owned compared to 13%, give me the 13% every time.
All righty. Let's anything else you want to add for like the Curry, Wiggins, Poole, Green group? I think Poole's the best option on DraftKings, but like it's all the same sort of.
Yeah, pretty much. Poole looks fine at 5,800. He's the one that I would want to get to first. Draymond at 6,900 is fine as well. Wiggins at 6,200 is fine. But yeah, I think it's Poole. Poole's probably the easiest guy to get to from this team. Kevon Looney, as far as point per dollar value goes, looks the best. Curry, in terms of raw projection, looks the best. But like the best combination of raw points and still offering some value is probably Jordan Poole.
Okay. How do you want to handle Looney, though, at 3,200? Just center. I think he looks great today. 13% ownership honestly feels a little low to me.
Yeah, I think he looks pretty good. I mean, you're getting it's not like the Knicks are going to go small. Like they're going to have whatever combination of centers that they end up using. So Looney could certainly be out there. The only thing that like kind of concerns me is I don't really know what caused the change. I don't know why the rotation suddenly changed. Like, but it has, over the last couple of games, and really at 3,200, even if he only plays 18 minutes, you're probably fine.
Yeah. Can we get to the rest of this garbage? Peyton, Toscano Anderson, Damian Lee, Iguodala, Bielitsa, Cumbucket. What do we do with the rest of Golden State?
Ignore them.
Probably, right? I mean, $3,100 Gary Payton played 9 minutes. 9 minutes the last time out.
Right. I mean,
not ideal.
So Otto Porter Jr. played 25 minutes yesterday, and keep in mind Iggy was out. I haven't seen if he's going to play today.
He's in.
Okay, I'll say I know they were.
And I have Otto. I have Porter out. I have Iggy in.
Okay, so yeah, Iggy at 3K, I guess would probably be the one that I played first, but
he's played 11 minutes since November 16th.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with him, but
yeah, right.
Yeah, so Porter played 25 minutes yesterday. Peyton played 9. Toscano Anderson played 13. Moody played 2. Bielitsa played 9. Kuminga played 6. Lee played 20. I guess Lee's minutes are probably the safest. We've seen him at times this year get plenty of run. He's not a great fantasy producer, but 3K is 3K. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any strong preferences here.
It's awful, right? And again, this is just like the bottom of Brooklyn, where one of these guys is probably going to end up being like a relatively interesting value piece, especially for Golden State, where everybody's 3,200 or below or whatever, 3,300 for Juan Toscano Anderson. But like, those are the prices where if somebody accidentally plays 19 minutes, that's a real issue.
Right. Like Gary Payton is a good fantasy producer when he's on the floor. He just needs to be on the floor. So you're, hoping for that. It's the same thing with Bielitsa, but I think it's harder for him to be out there. Or it's harder to see the path where he suddenly plays a lot of minutes than it is. But with Porter being out, who knows? So yeah, it's like Peyton and Bielitsa, Toscano Anderson to a lesser extent are the guys that produce well per minute. Iguodala sucks per minute. Lee sucks per minute, but Lee's likely to lead that group in minutes played. Iguodala, depending on his health and conditioning and whatever, has a good chance at being up there too. But it's just. You're throwing darts either way. Like there's nothing I can point to and say like, oh, I'm confident that it's this guy for X reason.
Now we get into it, because this is the spot where I think the entire slate hangs in the balance. The New York Knicks, just before we got started, Quentin Grimes was ruled out, health and safety protocols. Quentin Grimes played 39 and a half minutes in their last game. In regulation, no less. We got to replace those minutes in some way. Alec Burks is back. RJ Barrett and Obi Toppin are still out. I've done this already today, but now it's different. Let's take a walk through this rotation since we have a ton of time. Alec Burks is going to play like 35 minutes a game, or 35, 36, whatever you want to say. I think we're both in agreement there.
Yes.
We're going to split likely 48 minutes between Nerlens Noel and Mitchell Robinson, with a lean towards Nerlens Noel.
Yes. Yeah, like 26, 22, something like that.
Okay. I don't know if they would want to go to any Randall at the 5 because it's the Warriors. It's there for them. Doesn't seem like a great idea, but I guess it's on the table. I don't really care all that much about it.
Yeah, like I think it's possible they do it, but Tibbs just hasn't seemed to ever want to do that.
Right. Derrick Rose
out kind of makes it harder too.
Yeah. Derrick Rose played 36 and a half minutes 2 days ago. He played 33 on the 10th. That was with Burks and with Barrett. So my question then becomes to you, how many minutes do we see Derrick Rose play now that there's no Quentin Grimes? This feels like an easy 30 to me.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. 30 seems like the safe number.
Okay. Follow-up question. Is there any way that we see Kemba Walker today?
Seems unlikely, right?
Right. I agree. Just throwing that one out there. I feel like Quickly is largely unimpacted in this scenario, and that like 26 minutes for Quickly seems to just be what they're doing.
Yeah, 26 to 30, I think, for Quickly.
Okay. Same situation for Fournier. Or is this a spot now where Fournier picks up a couple extra minutes because Grimes is gone?
I think he could get around 30 as well. I mean, basically, I think you can kind of look at the last game and just make Quentin Grimes be Alec Burks, where Grimes played 39 minutes. Not saying that Rose has to play 36, but you can give, a couple of extra minutes to Quickly. You could give a couple extra minutes to Fournier, but the point being that like Rose is still going to play a lot. We know Burks is going to play a lot. Fournier becomes a better play than he normally is when everyone's healthy because his minutes are more secure. Same goes for Quickly.
Okay. Then the big question in all of this is, what in the hell do we do with Kevin Knox?
Relegate him to the G League.
29 minutes 2 nights ago.
So, and so the combination of Barrett and Toppin being out was basically just like consumed by Kevin Knox. Yeah. I don't really see a path around him playing a lot of minutes.
Right. It's got to be 26 or so, right?
Yeah. I mean, the only, like Randall played 36, so it's not like he was taking a bunch of minutes from Randall. The center rotation was normal. Rose got his. There's no guy ahead of Knox in the rotation that played substantially fewer minutes than we would expect in that game. Yeah. So it's not like I'm looking at it and saying, oh, it was fluky. Does he close? Probably not. But so
we just detailed out Burks, Rose, Fournier, Quickly, Randall, Noel and Robinson, Kevin Knox. I think we've got a pretty decent chunk of minutes left over. Does that just become Miles McBride or something?
Probably, but I'm trying to figure out. So Knox played in the first half. He played 12 and a half minutes. So yeah, I mean, I think giving him like 25, 26 makes sense. He closed in that game, but you didn't have Fournier on the floor at the end. You didn't have Randall on the floor at the end. So, he could lose. That's probably where he loses a few minutes. If this game's competitive, Knox probably isn't out there the last few minutes of the fourth.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like Randall is, Fournier is, somebody is ahead of Knox, you would think.
Right.
Are you assuming Rose starts again?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm assuming that we get the same starting lineup, but with Burks in place of Grimes.
Okay. This is not a fun spot to project today. I don't want to have to play Kevin Knox. And like on DraftKings, you got to play Kevin Knox. At least
What's
a little
his ownership
bit.
Coming in
at? We might not even have that correct right now. We have it at 5%, but we did get another update. Maybe that took Grimes out. Yeah, we got another update since the show started because Grimes went out like as we started.
Right.
But I'm pulling this now just to see.
So I just very quickly just threw in what I think are like reasonable minutes projections off the top of my head for these guys. And it got me to 238. So we'd only have to give like 2 minutes to Miles McBride.
All right. What do you got for Burks?
36.
Okay. 26 for Quickly?
28.
Okay.
But could be 26 and just make it 4 from McBride.
Yeah. 30 for Rose?
32 for Rose.
Okay. Did you go 30 on Fournier?
Yeah.
26 on Knox? Or did you go 28?
26 on Knox.
Okay. And then Randall, Noel, Robinson don't matter.
Yeah, I went 38 Randall, 26, 22.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, like those aren't, they obviously can fluctuate several minutes. But the point being that like McBride doesn't have to play any sort of big role here. He can still basically be non-existent.
Yeah. Knox, 12% owned on DraftKings. That seems about right to me.
Yeah, because on the one hand, he's terrible. On the other hand, he's 3,600 and likely to play mid-20s.
Yuck. Yuck, yuck, yuck. All right, let's talk about the actual good plays then. I think that's Julius Randle pretty clearly across both sites. I think it's Alec Burks very clearly across both sites, in particular on FanDuel, where he's only 5,600. Derrick Rose, obviously, going to be pretty heavily owned. If he's getting 26% ownership on FanDuel at 6,200, you best believe he's going to be in a shit ton of lineups on DraftKings, and he is 40% owned. 33% owned Emmanuel Quickly. Point guard only 4,600. I don't think that you probably have too much to add to Randall, Burks, or Rose, but I am curious on your thoughts on Quickly.
Yeah, that one's interesting just because of the potential for fewer minutes. So, like, I think there's the potential for him to play more minutes too than the 26 he played. I think that, like, if he's playing well, he can take minutes from Fournier without a doubt. So you could potentially get, 30, 32 minutes in some games from Quickly, but you also could get 24, 26. I don't think 24 is super likely, but you could easily lose a couple of minutes. For example, he played 26 minutes last game. He closed the fourth quarter. If that's Fournier, you're at 24 minutes. So it's not that difficult to see how you're potentially playing a guy that gets 24 minutes at 4,600 and is owned by 1/3 of the field. So he's a guy where I think typically in situations like that, I'm not saying I don't like Quickly or anything. Like, I'm sure this could be misconstrued as Quickly sucks or something like that, but the minutes are really volatile. So if he were projected for like 12% ownership, he'd be one of my favorite tournament plays. At 33%, it's a spot where I think it's likely I'd just look elsewhere.
Is the most interesting spot for the New York Knicks hoping you get center right? 7% own Noel at 3,700, 6% own Mitchell Robinson at 3,900.
Yeah, it seems like I just want to play them both. I mean, not together, but
sure.
Especially in 150 max, like I just expect there's a good chance I'll be over the field on both of those guys. Especially when like you have Kevon Looney getting twice the ownership. I think Kevon Looney is a very good value play, but the $500 is $500 to $700. It matters, but it's probably not gonna make or break your lineup, and there's no real reason that Noel or Robinson can't beat Kevon Looney.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't really have anything to add for Knox. 4,200 on FanDuel doesn't make him all that appealing. I think 12% ownership on DraftKings is pretty properly owned. Anything else here?
Somebody said, could it just be Noel and Robinson? Maybe Taj get more minutes instead of Knox. Not unless one of them is playing before, which isn't going to happen.
LaMarcus Aldridge out. James Johnson out. Health and safety protocols. And DeAndre Bembry and Javon Carter.
What are we doing?
What's in the water in New York? Okay. All right. Anything else for the Knicks?
No.
All right. Do you want to go back to Brooklyn?
No. I mean, we have to, but
yeah. All right. So James Johnson out. Aldridge out. We already know that Millsap's gone for health and safety protocols. So these guys must have been like licking each other's faces as of late. No Javon Carter. No DeAndre Bembry. Who the fuck was the last one? Aldridge, Johnson, Bembry, Carter.
That's it. Millsap.
Oh yeah, I knew there was an extra one, and I couldn't figure out why Millsap's name, like why that fifth name wasn't in that tweet, but that happened last night. All right, so now we just this is stupid. We just freed up 68 minutes of my projections in the 10 minutes it's taken us to do this show. So Nick Claxton just became one of the best plays of the slate, right?
Yeah. Don't know. I don't really see any way around that.
And I think that Blake Griffin is probably right around there now too.
Yep. Yeah, that's Kevin Knox and Blake Griffin. What could go wrong?
All right. So I don't know, like 26-22 split of Aldridge, Knicks, Claxton, Blake.
So the game that Aldridge sat before, and James Johnson was in, he played 19 minutes, but the game Claxton started, he played 16 minutes. Blake played 13. Millsap played 19. So Millsap's out. Do they have, I mean, I assume it's just 48 minutes for those two, right? Especially because Claxton has played more minutes recently. So it's not like it's a conditioning thing.
So the only way that it's not, to me, is because it's Toronto.
Right.
There's no reason that Kevin Durant cannot be isn't the 5 in this spot. But because of the bodies that they have, 48 minutes split between Claxton and Blake seems very, very likely.
Right, because that's kind of like what we were talking about with the Knicks. Like, they could go Randall at the 5, but then they're just opening up more minutes for like Kevin Knox or McBride. You know, they're shorthanded on the wings too, and that's the same for Brooklyn. So like if they give Durant minutes at the 5, then you're getting more for like Cam Thomas and Bruce Brown or David Duke or whatever. But I don't really know that that's the path they go. Yeah, so I mean, the part that scares me is I'm fine going like 24 or something, 24, 26 on Claxton. I feel pretty comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable giving all of the rest to Blake Griffin.
That's fair. I went 26. I put in 26, 22 right out of the gate because I first want to find out if I even have places to give all those minutes. Because I'm going to feel a lot more comfortable giving Blake 22 if I can't figure out what to do with this final 37.
Right.
Feels like Cam Thomas is about to play like 30 minutes today.
Agreed.
He seems to be the guy whose minutes are most likely to just be very high today. I've got Durant and Harden in for 39 now. You want to tell me it's 40? That's totally cool. But
yes, I'd flipped it to 38, but yeah, that works. Idea's the same.
I don't think this is really changing anything for Patty Mills.
No.
You know, we're calling it 34.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Bruce Brown will be an interesting swing piece here because I don't feel like I ever understand how many minutes that guy's going to play.
So I just like trying to like spread. Yeah, just trying to spread the minutes out as well as I could. I just got to 220 minutes. So
yeah,
that was 38 apiece for Harden, Durant, 34 for Mills, 28 for Thomas, 24 for Brown, 24 for Claxton, 18 for Griffin, 16 for David Duke. So I was kind of just trying to like say, okay, what if I just throw like, you know, reasonable minutes at everyone? Do I just happen to land at 240? And like it's not even close.
Blake and Claxton have to split the center minutes.
Yeah, I think so.
Or we're getting like 34 minutes out of Bruce Brown and Cam Thomas. But
or
splitting the center minutes,
like 8 minutes.
Yeah, splitting the center minutes makes the most sense to me at this point. Because I just don't think they have the option. So wait, Harden, Mills, Durant, Cam Thomas is 4, Bruce Brown, Claxton, Blake is 7, Sharp, Edwards, Duke. So they have 10. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to split those minutes there. Oh boy. David Duke is going to play. He played 21 minutes a couple of weeks ago. Or no, a week ago.
Yeah.
Even if I call that 18, Bruce Brown to. I mean, Bruce Brown sort of fits this matchup. He's sort of very like Raptors-y.
Well, and he can just play multiple spots.
Yeah. And that's sort of what they need. Maybe like 6 minutes to Kessler Edwards. Okay. Well, this is a slate now.
So the one thing I would point out, I think there's a good chance they just run a full 10-man rotation.
Yes. I agree. What?
Like they've been running 11-man rotations. Even against Houston without Durant and Aldridge, they ran 11-man.
So you think that's Sharp or Edwards?
I think it's everybody.
Oh yeah, I just got done saying that it was 10, like a moron.
Yeah, if they had 11, I would think they ran 11.
Okay, so who are you not likely to play then? Duke, Edwards, Sharp? Everybody else on the table?
Yeah.
Okay.
And really, I mean, I would say that Duke Edwards are on the table in the sense that like Nemanja Bjelica is on the table.
Right.
You know, but it's a 3-game slate type thing. But as far as guys that I feel remotely comfortable with, it's everybody with those 3.
Okay. Wow, it's 10:49. We haven't even done the final game yet. Who could have seen this coming though, you know? Yeah. So yeah, Nick Claxton for 3,100 on DraftKings, I think just became the best play of the slate. I think he's just the easiest guy to get to today.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, the fact that he's only center eligible is a problem, but
yeah, I mean, one thing that'll be somewhat interesting to pay attention to is what the ownership ends up doing between Nick Claxton and Kevon Looney.
Okay.
Looney Like I think Claxton clearly becomes the better option, but also, there's definitely an ownership spot where it's going to be like, okay, well, I'll take Looney at the discount. It makes Robinson and Noel look less likely to be the best options, but also probably drives their ownership even lower. So I think the just punt center spot is going to be really interesting in terms of ownership today. And that's without even talking about JaVale McGee
yet. You ready to close this one out, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we'll have more on the deeper dive later. I'll have had time to actually really figure out what I think. But I think it's kind of just the Nets became obviously very, very appealing.
Yeah, I know what the one thing is that you guys should do, and it's not listen to T. Lee in chat that said stay away from anything not Durant or Harden. That is bad advice.
Yeah, that's not great.
Phoenix Suns, 3-point favorites in Portland, 218 total. We don't know the status of DeAndre Ayton. That one's really annoying. Get ready for adding another value center to the list if we get this news early enough. I don't really have much to say about Phoenix. If you assume DeAndre Ayton's in, there's like 8 guys on Phoenix that all look decent.
Someone said that a report just came out that Ayton was out. I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either. And obviously I've seen every report that's come out so far, but I don't see that anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I just Googled it and nothing came up, but
yeah. Bridges, Paul, Ayton, if he's in, Crowder, Johnson, Shamet, Payne, McGee. I'm in for all of it. Probably 15 to 20%, all of these guys, depending on who it is. I really want DeAndre Ayton to just play here, though.
I mean, I prefer when he doesn't, and you can just jam in JaVale McGee, but this game also starts 2.5 hours after the other two.
On a 3-gamer.
Right. Yeah, if Ayton's in, he looks good. Paul looks good. Payne looks good. Like you said, Bridges is okay. Crowder and Johnson are okay. Crowder and Johnson both look better if Ayton is out. JaVale McGee looks okay if Ayton is in, but a hell of a lot better if Ayton is out. So, yeah, it's kind of just a team with a lot of like secondary options if Ayton is in, bumping up the front court if Ayton is out.
All righty. Yeah, this luckily for us on this specific instance, talking about Phoenix is easy. So that works for me on this one. Is JaVale the best play of the slate? Is JaVale a better play than Claxton if we get that news before lock?
Yes.
Agreed.
Someone said DraftKings has Ayton out. He's listed as
yesterday.
Out, and it says Ayton won't play Monday against Los Angeles.
Shocked that that would be the path that would be taken here. Closing it out, Portland Trailblazers. Damian Lillard is back. He was my number one contender on the slate for today. 8,700 on FanDuel, 9,700 on DraftKings. I think Norm Powell looks really interesting today. You see both Lillard and Powell get a usage bump with no CJ McCollum on the floor. Happy to get to a bit of Simons. Robert Covington is 3,400, has been playing north of 30 minutes over the past couple of games. Larry Nance entered the starting lineup. He's only 4,300, looking pretty good. We always have some interest in Yusuf Nurkic, although 7,300 on a day with 25 different center options makes it a little bit more difficult. How are you feeling about Portland?
Yeah, so I'm with you on Dame. More usage without McCollum, playing a ton of minutes. Priced better on FanDuel than DraftKings as usual. Nurkic is fine. Wouldn't say he's a priority or anything. One thing that I think is important to notice with Larry Nance, though, since he's only 4,300, he did join the starting lineup last game. He played 26 minutes, but he dealt with some pretty serious foul trouble. He picked up 2 fouls in the first 4 minutes and 16 seconds of the first quarter, subbed out. Covington came in for him. Picked up his third foul midway through the second quarter. Picked up his 4th foul 2 minutes into the third quarter, so he went back to the bench. Covington subbed back in. I think that it's likely that if Nance can't avoid fouls, you see closer to 30 to 32 minutes from him and mid-20s from Covington. So not that that's a guarantee, but I think that just looking at last game and assuming Nance plays 26 minutes as a starter might be selling him a little bit short.
Okay. How are you going to handle Nurk? Is that going to be a tough one today at 7,300?
Also, Nas Little only played 20 minutes. I'm not buying this Covington thing at all. That he played 34 minutes off the bench.
30 minutes in the previous 2 games, but that was also still with no CJ, no Dame, no Simons.
Right. But as a starter for a lot of the season, he hasn't even been coming close to that. So I'm pretty comfortable going mid 20s ish on Covington, giving more minutes to Nance and to Little.
The problem with that is that Covington is 3,400 and like he can afford to lose those minutes.
Yeah, he'll still
be a play today.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
kind of the bummer.
Yeah, like I think he's a fine play. I'm just saying, like, I don't think he plays. I don't think he should be expected to play low to mid 30s.
I'm with you on that one. What do you do with $7,300 Nurk?
Where I get to him, but wouldn't say it's a priority. I mean, it's really difficult when some of the best values at center, Claxton, Looney, Noel, Robinson, all sub 4K at center. You have either DeAndre Ayton or JaVale McGee at Ayton, basically the same price as Nurkic. McGee, the best play on the slate, probably, if Ayton is out. So far from a priority, but, never going to be upset about getting to Nurkic on a 3-game slate.
How you feeling about Lillard? 8,700 on FanDuel. I love now that he's got a cortisone shot in his stomach.
Yeah. The FanDuel price looks great. DraftKings looks good too. I mean, there's more than enough value today to get there. And he's at, even though like it's a relatively expensive price tag, there's still a big gap between him and the Curry, Harden, Durant tier. Yeah. So that's what's really important. If those guys were all 10-4, it would be like, yeah, just fine, $700. But you're talking about basically a whole other player that you can upgrade in your lineup. So I think Dame still looks really good on DraftKings as well.
I think Simons is really interesting. 5,800 on FanDuel, 5,600 on DraftKings. We saw him come right back in, play 33 minutes. He gets a usage, like he could see more of the ball with no CJ McCollum around, at least. That's for sure. And he's not getting the ownership. 16% on FanDuel, 15 on DraftKings. He looks like a really nice GPP play to me.
I agree. My only concern is he took a lot of minutes from Nas Little, it looks like. Little subbed out 3 minutes and 28 seconds into the third. Simons came in. Covington had already come in for Nance because of his fouls. Simons came in there. He also closed over Little. Not saying that can't happen, but you got 33 minutes that game from Simons. I think there's a lot of times where he ends up at like 27, 28, and I'm not really sure that I want to pay 5,600 for that. But to your point, if he's not going to get ownership, it's a 3-game slate. There is a path to low 30s in minutes for him.
Yeah. Tricky rotations for Portland tonight. Going to make a lot of money for somebody too.
Yep.
Well, that was a strategy show. Guys, if you haven't yet done it, hit the like button. I think we earned our pay for today, given the breaking news that we had throughout this show. Deeper dive and live before lock are going to be very important tonight. Adam, you'll have the injury video today as well?
Yeah, injury video, and barring technical difficulties, which are pretty likely to happen when I try and self-produce a show, but I'll have the first edition of my tournament plays video series out as well.
Boom. Love it. Does the injury show have a name?
Probably. I don't know what it is.
Fair enough. At least everybody knows what it is. Make sure you're paying attention to all of the news for tonight. This is going to be, maybe we already got it, but this is going to be a hard slate for a 3-gamer. A lot of moving pieces, a lot of depth on some of these teams that you're going to have to at least explore a bit. So 2+ hours of content leading up to lock should help you out. NFL First Look Show coming up next. Hit that like button. We earned it. Good luck tonight, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. Wow.